We thought Las Vegas would be the best week of our lives. Sofia and I had dreamed about this trip for 2 years. We wanted lights, luxury, shows, fancy dinners. We wanted to forget everything that went wrong back home in Italy and just celebrate being married. When we landed and saw the Strip for the first time, with all those massive hotels and the fountains shooting water into the sky, we felt like we had made it. This was our moment. We checked into the resort, took 100 photos in the lobby, laughed like kids. That night, we had a reservation at one of those restaurants you see in movies. The hotel said a limo would pick us up. We felt special. When the driver showed up in the lobby holding a sign with our names, we didn't think twice. He wore a black suit, had a badge, smiled politely. Everything looked professional. We got in. The inside of the limo smelled weird. Not like leather or champagne like you'd expect. It smelled like chemicals, like something had been cleaned too hard or too fast. Sofia noticed it first but didn't say anything. I tried talking to the guy, asking him about the city, making small talk. He barely answered. Short words, no eye contact. Then I realized we were driving away from the lights. The Strip was behind us. The buildings got smaller. The streets got darker. I looked at Sofia. She was staring out the window, confused. I asked the driver where we were going. He didn't answer. I asked again, louder. That's when he locked the doors. That's when I knew we were in trouble. The GPS screen was off. The man's face in the rearview mirror wasn't polite anymore. He said the destination had changed. His voice was flat, cold. Sofia grabbed my hand. Her fingers were shaking. The lights of Las Vegas disappeared completely. We were heading into the desert, and we had no idea what this man wanted from us. Before we continue, please comment below what city you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. My name is Luca Conti. I'm 34 years old. I'm from a small town near Florence, Italy. Sofia is my wife. We got married 6 months ago, but we had to wait to take this trip. My father was sick. Sofia's job didn't allow her to take time off. We kept postponing. When we finally booked the tickets to Las Vegas, it felt like a victory. We wanted something big, something different. We didn't want a beach or a quiet village. We wanted noise, lights, excitement. We wanted to feel alive. The flight was long. We left Rome early in the morning and landed in Las Vegas around noon, local time. The heat hit us the second we stepped outside the airport. It was dry, strong, nothing like the humidity we have back home. The taxi driver who took us to the hotel didn't talk much. He had the radio on, some country music station. Sofia looked out the window the whole time, watching the highway, the mountains in the distance, the strange flatness of the desert around the city. I held her hand. I told her this was going to be perfect. Our hotel was on the Strip, one of the big ones. The kind you see in pictures with fountains and marble floors and chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. When we walked into the lobby, I felt small. Everything was huge. The ceilings were so high I couldn't see where they ended. There were slot machines near the entrance, people sitting in front of them with drinks in their hands, pressing buttons over and over. The noise was constant. Bells, music, voices, announcements. It never stopped. We checked in at the front desk. The woman who helped us was very polite. She smiled a lot, asked if it was our first time in Las Vegas. I said yes. She said we were going to love it. She gave us our room keys and told us the elevators were to the left. Our room was on the 23rd floor. When we got there and opened the door, Sofia laughed. The bed was enormous. There were 2 flat-screen TVs. The bathroom had a bathtub big enough for both of us. The window looked out over the Strip. We could see the Eiffel Tower replica, the pyramid-shaped hotel, the roller coaster running between buildings. It looked fake, like a movie set, but it was real. We spent the first afternoon just walking around. We went downstairs and explored the casino. Neither of us gambles, but we watched people playing poker, roulette, blackjack. Some of them looked serious, like they were working. Others looked drunk, laughing too loud, losing money and not caring. We walked outside and felt the heat again. It was almost 4 in the afternoon, and the sun was brutal. We didn't stay out long. We went back inside, found a cafe, ordered coffee. The coffee was bad. Too weak. But we didn't care. We were happy. That night we had dinner at a steakhouse inside the hotel. It was expensive, but we wanted to treat ourselves. The waiter brought us a bottle of wine. Sofia ordered salmon. I ordered ribeye. The food was good, but the portions were huge. American-sized. We couldn't finish. After dinner, we walked the strip again. The city looked completely different at night. Every building was covered in lights, screens the size of walls playing ads, music videos, movie trailers. There were street performers, people handing out flyers for clubs, tourists taking selfies everywhere. It was loud and chaotic and overwhelming. Sofia loved it. She kept pulling out her phone to take pictures. I just watched her. I was happy seeing her happy. We went to bed late. The next morning we slept in. When we woke up, it was almost 11. We ordered room service, pancakes, eggs, orange juice. We ate in bed, watched TV. Didn't do much. In the afternoon, we went to the pool. The pool area was massive. There were cabanas, bars, a DJ playing music. Most people were drinking. Some were in the water, but most were just lying on chairs, tanning. We found 2 chairs in the shade and sat there for a couple of hours. Sofia read a book. I checked my phone, answered some messages from my brother back home. That evening, we got ready for something special. Before we left Italy, I had made a reservation at a restaurant everyone talked about. It was in a different hotel, about 10 minutes away. The place was supposed to be fancy. You needed a reservation weeks in advance. Sofia bought a new dress for it. I wore a suit. When we were getting ready, she looked at me and said she couldn't believe we were really here. I kissed her. I told her we deserved this. Around 7, we went down to the lobby. We were supposed to meet the limo driver there. The hotel concierge had arranged it. He said a car would pick us up and take us to the restaurant. When I asked if we could just take a taxi, he said the limo was part of the experience. He said it was complimentary, included in our hotel package. I didn't argue. It sounded nice. We waited near the entrance. There were other people around, checking in, checking out, taking photos. A few minutes later, a man walked in. He was wearing a black suit, white shirt, black tie. He had a badge clipped to his jacket. He was holding a small sign with our names written on it. Conti. He smiled when he saw us. He introduced himself, but I don't remember his name. He spoke English with no accent. He looked professional, clean-cut, maybe 40 years old. He asked if we were ready. We said yes. He led us outside. The limo was parked right in front of the hotel entrance. It was black, long, shiny. The windows were tinted. There was a woman standing near the valet desk. She worked for the hotel. She waved at us and said to have a great night. I waved back. The driver opened the door for us. Sofia got in first. I followed. The door closed behind me. The inside of the limo was nice. Leather seats, a small bar with bottles of water, lights running along the ceiling. But something felt off immediately. The smell. It wasn't the smell of a clean car. It smelled like bleach or ammonia, something chemical and sharp. It made my nose burn a little. Sofia noticed it too. She looked at me, wrinkled her nose, but didn't say anything. I figured maybe they had just cleaned it. Maybe someone spilled something earlier. The driver got in the front seat. He didn't say anything. He just started the car and pulled out into traffic. I looked out the window. We were on the strip, surrounded by lights and people. Everything looked normal. I relaxed a little. Sofia leaned against me. She said she was excited. I put my arm around her. A few minutes passed. I tried to make conversation with the driver. I asked him how long he'd been working in Las Vegas. He said a while. I asked if he liked it. He said it was fine. His answers were short. He didn't ask us anything. He didn't try to be friendly. I thought maybe he was just tired. Maybe he'd been driving all day. I stopped trying to talk. Then I noticed we were turning. We left the main road. The buildings got smaller. The lights got dimmer. I leaned forward and looked out the windshield. We were driving through a part of the city I hadn't seen before. It didn't look touristy. It looked industrial. Warehouses, parking lots, chain-link fences. There were fewer cars, fewer people. I felt my chest tighten. I asked the driver where we were going. He didn't answer. I asked again, louder. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. He said the restaurant was just ahead. But I didn't see any restaurants. I saw empty lots. I saw dark buildings. I saw streetlights that weren't working. Sofia sat up. She looked out the window. She asked me if this was the right way. I said I didn't know. I pulled out my phone and opened the map. I tried to find the restaurant. The GPS showed it was in the opposite direction. We were going the wrong way. I told the driver to stop. I said we needed to turn around. He didn't stop. He didn't slow down. He just kept driving. That's when I heard the click. The sound of the doors locking. All four of them at once. Sofia grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. I looked at the driver. He wasn't looking at the road anymore. He was looking at me in the mirror. His face didn't change. He didn't look angry. He didn't look nervous. He just looked calm. He said the destination had changed. His voice was flat. No emotion. Like he was telling us the time or the weather. Sofia started breathing fast. I could hear it. I could feel her shaking next to me. I tried the door handle. It didn't move. I tried the window button. Nothing. The lights of Las Vegas were behind us now. I turned and looked through the back window. The strip was just aglow on the horizon. We were heading into the dark. I told myself to stay calm. I needed to think. Panicking wouldn't help. But my heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Sofia was holding my arm with both hands now. She kept saying my name. Luca, Luca. Her voice was shaking. I told her it was going to be okay. I didn't believe it, but I said it anyway. I looked at the driver again. He was still watching us in the mirror. I asked him what he wanted. He didn't answer. I asked him where he was taking us. Nothing. I told him we had money. I said we could pay him if he just let us out. He didn't react. It was like talking to a wall. Sofia started crying. Not loud. Just quiet tears running down her face. She whispered to me in Italian. She asked me what we were going to do. I didn't know. I squeezed her hand. I told her to stay quiet. I told her I was working on it. The road got worse. We turned onto a smaller street. No lights. No other cars. Just darkness and flat land on both sides. I could see the outline of mountains far away, black shapes against the sky. The city was gone. We were in the desert, the middle of nowhere. I looked around the inside of the limo. There had to be something I could use. The bottles of water, the small bar. Nothing sharp, nothing heavy. I thought about breaking the window, but the glass looked thick. I thought about trying to fight the driver, but he was bigger than me and I had no plan. If I tried and failed, it would make things worse. My phone. I still had my phone. I pulled it out slowly, keeping it low so the driver wouldn't see. I checked the signal. 2 bars. Weak, but there. I opened the map. We were heading northeast, away from the city. The map showed nothing around us. No buildings, no roads. Just empty desert. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? I didn't know where we were. I didn't know what was happening. I decided to wait. I put the phone back in my pocket. The driver slowed down. He turned onto a dirt road. The car bounced over rocks and holes. Dust kicked up around us. I could see it in the headlights. Sofia was still crying. She kept asking me questions I couldn't answer. I just held her. I told her to breathe. After a few minutes, I saw something ahead. A structure. Maybe a building. It was hard to tell in the dark. The driver pulled up to it and stopped. He turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and heavy. No city noise. No traffic. Just the wind outside, low and steady. The driver got out. He didn't say anything. He just opened his door and stepped out. I heard his footsteps on the gravel. I watched him walk toward the building. It looked like an old warehouse. Metal walls. Broken windows. A rolling door on the front, half open. He disappeared inside. I moved fast. I reached for the door handle again. Still locked. I tried the window controls. Still nothing. I looked for a manual lock, something I could pull or twist. There was nothing. These doors were controlled electronically. I cursed under my breath. Sofia was staring at me. She asked if we were going to die. Her voice was so small, I told her no. I told her we were going to get out of this. I didn't know if that was true, but I needed her to believe it. I heard footsteps again. The driver was coming back. I sat back down and told Sofia to stay still. He opened the front door and got back in. He started the engine. We started moving again. We drove around the side of the building. There was another structure behind it, smaller, like a shed or a container. The driver stopped next to it. He got out again. This time he walked to our door. I felt my whole body tense. Sofia pressed herself against me. He opened the door. The desert air rushed in. It was cold. Colder than I expected. He stood there looking at us. He told us to get out. His voice was still flat. No anger. No excitement. Just a command. I didn't move. I asked him what he wanted. He said to get out. I asked him why. He reached in and grabbed my arm. His grip was strong. He pulled. I resisted. He pulled harder. Sofia screamed. I decided to cooperate. Fighting inside the car was useless. If I got outside, maybe I'd have a chance. I stepped out. He told Sofia to get out too. She was shaking so hard she could barely move. I helped her. She stood next to me, holding onto my arm. The driver closed the car door. He told us to walk toward the shed. I didn't move. He reached into his jacket. I thought he was going to pull out a gun. My stomach dropped. But he didn't. He just adjusted his belt and pointed toward the shed again. He told us to move. We walked. The ground was uneven. Rocks and dirt. Sofia stumbled. I caught her. We kept walking. The shed had a metal door. It was closed. The driver walked past us and opened it. The hinges screamed. Inside was completely dark. He told us to go in. I stopped. I turned to face him. I told him we didn't do anything to him. I told him we were just tourists. He didn't care. He told us to go inside or he'd make us. Sofia pulled on my arm. She whispered that we should just do what he said. Maybe if we cooperated, he'd let us go. I didn't think that was true, but I didn't see another option. We stepped toward the door. That's when I heard it. A sound in the distance. Faint but clear. An engine. A car. Coming from the direction of the main road. The driver heard it too. He turned his head. He looked toward the sound. For the first time, his expression changed. He looked annoyed. Maybe worried. I didn't think. I just reacted. I grabbed Sofia's hand and ran. We ran away from the shed, away from the limo, into the open desert. I didn't know where we were going. I just knew we had to move. Sofia was wearing heels. She kicked them off after a few steps. The ground was rough, rocks cut into our feet. I didn't care. We kept running. The driver shouted behind us. I heard him running too. His footsteps were fast, steady. He was gaining on us. I looked back. He was maybe 20 meters behind. I looked forward. There was nothing. Just dark land stretching forever. No houses, no lights, no help. Sofia was breathing hard. She was slowing down. I pulled her forward. I told her not to stop. She said she couldn't. Her legs were giving out. I told her she had to. The driver was closer now. 10 meters. Maybe less. I could hear him breathing. Then I saw something. A shape on the ground ahead. Something big. I couldn't tell what it was, but it was the only cover we had. I pulled Sofia toward it. It was a pile of old construction materials. Beams, sheets of metal, broken concrete. We ran around it and crouched down behind it. We pressed ourselves against the cold metal. We tried not to breathe too loud. The driver's footsteps slowed. He stopped running. I heard him walking now. Slow. Deliberate. He was looking for us. Sofia was shaking against me. I put my hand over her mouth. Not to hurt her. Just to keep her quiet. She nodded. She understood. The footsteps got closer. I could hear him moving around the pile. He was on the other side. Just a few meters away. I held my breath. Then I heard his voice. He said he knew we were there. He said we couldn't run forever. He said the desert would kill us before morning if he didn't find us first. I didn't move. Sofia didn't move. The footsteps continued. He was circling around, getting closer to our side. I reached into my pocket slowly. I pulled out my phone. I turned the brightness all the way down. I opened the emergency call screen. I typed 911. My finger hovered over the call button. The footsteps stopped. I waited. Then I heard something else. The sound of a car again. Louder this time. Closer. Headlights swept across the desert. A vehicle was coming down the dirt road. The driver cursed. I heard him turn and run back toward the limo. His footsteps faded. I heard the car door slam. The engine started. I peeked around the metal. The limo was moving. He was driving away. Fast. Dust and gravel flew up behind the tires. Within seconds, he was gone. The other vehicle stopped where the limo had been. It was a truck. Old and dirty. A man got out. He was wearing a work shirt and jeans. He looked around. He saw the shed. He walked toward it. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know if he was safe. But he wasn't the driver. That was enough. I stood up. Sofia grabbed my arm and tried to pull me back down. I told her it was okay. I called out to the man. He turned. He saw us. He looked confused. He asked what we were doing out here. I didn't know how to explain. I just said we needed help. He stared at us for a moment. Then he nodded. He told us to get in the truck. We ran to him. Sofia was limping. Her feet were bleeding. I helped her into the truck. I got in after her. The man got in the driver's seat. He asked if we were okay. I said no. I told him someone tried to hurt us. He asked if we needed a hospital. I said we needed the police. He pulled out his phone and called. He spoke to someone, gave them the location. He said 2 people were in trouble. He said to send someone fast. He hung up. He looked at us. He asked what happened. I told him. I told him about the limo, the fake driver, the warehouse. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he shook his head. He said Las Vegas had a dark side most tourists never saw. He said we were lucky. We waited in the truck. Sofia leaned against me. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just staring straight ahead. I held her. I told her we were safe now. 15 minutes later, we saw lights, red and blue. Police cars coming down the dirt road, 2 of them. They pulled up next to the truck. Officers got out. They came to the window. They asked if we were the ones who called. The man said yes. They asked us to step out. We did. One of the officers asked what happened. I told the story again. He took notes. He asked for descriptions. I described the driver, the limo, everything I could remember. The officer radioed it in. Another officer walked toward the warehouse. He had a flashlight. He looked inside the shed. He came back and said it was empty. No one there. They asked if we needed medical attention. Sofia's feet were cut up pretty bad. They called an ambulance. We sat on the ground and waited. The man in the truck stayed with us. He didn't have to, but he did. He gave us water from a cooler in his truck. He told us his name was Ray. He said he worked construction and was just driving through to check on a site. He said he was glad he came when he did. I thanked him. I didn't know what else to say. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics cleaned Sofia's feet and wrapped them in bandages. They checked me too. I had some cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. The police said they'd take us back to our hotel. They said they'd put out an alert for the limo and the driver. They said we did the right thing by running. We got into the back of a police car. They drove us back toward the city. As we got closer, the lights of the strip appeared again on the horizon. Bright and colorful and fake. Sofia didn't look at them. She just stared at her hands. The police car pulled up to our hotel around midnight. The strip was still crowded. People walking around with drinks, laughing, taking pictures. Everything looked normal, like nothing had happened. But we weren't the same people who had left a few hours ago. The officers walked us through the lobby. People stared. We looked terrible. Sofia's dress was dirty and torn at the bottom. Her feet were bandaged. I had dust all over my suit. My shirt was ripped at the shoulder. The hotel staff saw us and immediately came over. The manager asked what happened. One of the officers explained briefly. The manager's face went pale. He kept apologizing. He said the limo wasn't from the hotel. He said someone must have impersonated their service. They took us to a private office, gave us water, offered to call a doctor. The officers asked if we wanted to go to the hospital. Sofia said no. She just wanted to go to our room. They said they understood. They gave us their card and told us someone would contact us in the morning to follow up. They said we were very lucky. I nodded. I didn't feel lucky. The manager personally escorted us to our room. He kept apologizing the entire way. He said the hotel would cover everything. He said they'd move us to a different room if we wanted. He said they'd do whatever we needed. I told him we just wanted to be alone. He nodded and left. Sofia sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't say anything. She just stared at the floor. I sat next to her. I put my arm around her. She leaned into me and finally started crying. Not the quiet tears from before. This was different. Deep sobs that shook her whole body. I held her and let her cry. I didn't try to stop her. She needed it. After a while, she pulled back. She looked at me with red eyes. She said she wanted to go home. She said she didn't want to be in Las Vegas anymore. I told her we'd leave as soon as we could. She nodded. I helped her to the bathroom. She washed her face, changed out of the dress. I gave her one of my t-shirts to sleep in. She got into bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin. I turned off the lights and got in next to her. She moved close to me. I wrapped my arms around her. She asked me if I thought he was going to kill us. I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to make it worse. I told her I didn't know. I told her it didn't matter now because we were safe. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said she kept thinking about what would have happened if that truck hadn't shown up, if Ray hadn't been there. I told her not to think about it. She said she couldn't help it. We lay there in the dark. Neither of us slept. Every sound made us jump. A door closing in the hallway. Voices outside. The air conditioner kicking on. Everything felt threatening. Around 3 a.m, Sofia finally fell asleep. I stayed awake. I kept replaying everything in my head. The driver's face. The smell in the limo. The sound of the doors locking. Running through the desert. Hiding behind that pile of metal. I wondered what he was planning to do to us. I wondered if he'd done it to other people before. The sun came up slowly. Light started creeping through the curtains. I got out of bed carefully, trying not to wake Sofia. I went to the window and looked out at the strip. The streets were almost empty now. Just a few people walking around. The lights were still on, but they looked dimmer in the daylight. Less magical. Just lights. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother in Italy. He was asking how the trip was going. I didn't know what to tell him. I put the phone down. Around 8, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole. It was a police detective. I opened the door. He introduced himself. Detective Morrison. He asked if he could come in. I let him. Sofia woke up when she heard voices. She sat up in bed. The detective apologized for coming so early. He said he wanted to follow up while everything was still fresh. He sat in the chair by the window. I sat on the edge of the bed next to Sofia. He asked us to go through the story again from the beginning. We did. He took notes. He asked specific questions. What time did the driver arrive? What did he look like? What did he say exactly? Did we notice anything unusual about the limo? The license plate? Any markings? I told him about the smell. The chemical smell. He wrote that down. He asked if we took any photos. I said no. He asked if we noticed any cameras in the hotel lobby. I said yes. He nodded. He said they'd checked the footage. He asked about the warehouse. Where exactly was it? I pulled up the location on my phone and showed him. He wrote down the coordinates. He said they'd send a team out there to investigate. He asked if the driver touched anything in the car. I said I didn't know. He asked if we touched anything. I said just the door handles and the seats. He said that might be enough. He said they'd try to find the vehicle. Then he asked if we wanted to press charges. I looked at him like he was crazy. Of course we wanted to press charges. He said he had to ask. He said sometimes tourists didn't want to get involved because it meant staying longer, dealing with courts, paperwork. I told him we'd do whatever it took. He said he understood. He said they'd be in touch. He gave us his card. He told us not to leave the city for at least 48 hours in case they needed us for identification or further statements. I said we'd stay. After he left, Sofia said she didn't want to stay in the room. She said she felt trapped. I understood. We got dressed and went downstairs. The hotel had a coffee shop. We sat there and ordered breakfast. Neither of us ate much. We just sat there, drinking coffee, not talking. A woman approached our table. She worked for the hotel. She said the manager wanted to speak with us. We followed her to the same office from the night before. The manager was there. He had papers in front of him. He said the hotel was deeply sorry for what happened. He said they were conducting their own investigation. He said they wanted to make things right. He said our entire stay would be complimentary. All charges removed. He said they'd cover any medical expenses. He offered us vouchers for future stays. I told him we weren't coming back. He nodded. He said he understood. He asked if there was anything else they could do. Sofia asked if they could help us change our flights. She said she wanted to leave as soon as possible. He said of course. He made a call right there. Within 10 minutes he had us booked on a flight leaving the next evening. He said he'd arrange a car to take us to the airport. A real car. From a verified company, with background-checked drivers. We went back to our room. Sofia packed immediately. She took everything out of the drawers, out of the closet, and stuffed it into our suitcases. She said she didn't want to stay another minute longer than we had to. I helped her. My phone rang. It was Detective Morrison. He said they found the limo. It was abandoned on the side of a highway about 30 miles outside the city. He said it had been wiped down. No prints, no evidence inside. But they had the vehicle, and they were running the VIN number to track the owner. He said they also sent officers to the warehouse. They found tire tracks, footprints, but nothing else. No one there. He said the driver was gone. I asked if they thought they'd find him. He paused. He said they'd try. He said cases like this were difficult because the guy was probably long gone by now. He said Las Vegas attracted a lot of transient criminals. People who came in, committed crimes, and disappeared. He said we did everything right by running and calling for help. He said most victims didn't get that chance. I thanked him and hung up. I told Sofia what he said. She didn't react. She just kept packing. We spent the rest of the day in the room. We didn't go out. We didn't see the city. We just waited. We watched TV without really watching it. We ordered room service for lunch and dinner. We barely touched the food. That night, Sofia couldn't sleep again. She kept waking up, breathing hard, looking around the room like she didn't know where she was. I stayed awake with her. I kept the lights on. I told her we'd be home soon. The next morning, we checked out early. The hotel arranged the car like they promised. A regular sedan. The driver was an older man, friendly, professional. He talked about the weather the whole drive to the airport. We didn't talk back much. At the airport, we checked our bags and went through security. We found our gate and sat down. Sofia held my hand the entire time. She didn't let go. I looked around at the other people waiting. Families, couples, business travelers. Everyone looked normal, relaxed, like they'd just had a great vacation. I wondered if any of them knew what could happen in this city, if any of them had ever been in danger and survived. Our flight was called. We boarded, found our seats. Sofia sat by the window. The plane filled up. People put their bags in the overhead bins, settled in, pulled out their phones. The plane started moving. We taxied to the runway. I looked out the window. I could see the strip in the distance, the pyramid, the Eiffel Tower, the roller coaster. All those bright, colorful buildings that promised fun and excitement and dreams coming true. The plane lifted off. Las Vegas got smaller and smaller below us. Then it was gone. Sofia closed her eyes. She said she never wanted to see that place again. I told her she wouldn't have to. I thought about the driver. I wondered where he was. I wondered if he was already looking for his next target. I wondered if the police would ever find him. I wondered if there were other couples like us, people who came to Las Vegas expecting one thing and got something completely different. I thought about Ray, the construction worker who saved us. I wished I'd gotten his number. I wanted to thank him properly. Without him, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe we'd still be out there in the desert. Maybe we'd be dead. The flight attendant came by with drinks. I ordered whiskey. Sofia ordered water. We didn't talk. We just sat there as the plane carried us away from Nevada, away from the desert, away from the worst night of our lives. I kept thinking about Sofia's question from the first night, the one she asked in the dark, if I thought he was going to kill us. I'd avoided answering then, but now, flying at 30,000 feet, far away from that place, I knew the truth. Yes, I thought he was going to kill us. I thought we were going to disappear into the desert, and no one would ever find us. Two tourists who came to Las Vegas and never came home. But we did come home. We survived, and that was the only thing that mattered. I need to go back. I need to tell you what really happened during the escape. What I told the police was the basic version, the facts. But there was more. Things I didn't say because I was still processing them. Things that happened so fast I barely understood them myself. When we ran from the shed, I had no plan. Zero. I just knew we couldn't go inside that building. Once we were in there, trapped in the dark with him, it would be over. So when I heard that car engine in the distance and saw him turn his head, I acted on pure instinct. I grabbed Sofia and ran. The ground was worse than I described. It wasn't just rocks and dirt. There were pieces of metal sticking up from the sand. Broken glass, old wire. Things left behind from whatever used to be out there. Sofia's heels were useless. She kicked them off after 3 steps. I heard them hit the ground behind us. Then it was just her bare feet on that rough terrain. She made sounds every time she stepped, small gasps of pain. But she didn't stop. She kept running. I held her hand so tight I was probably hurting her. I didn't care. I wasn't letting go. The driver started chasing us immediately. I heard him yell something. Not words, just a sound. Angry. Then his footsteps. Heavy boots on gravel. Fast and steady. He wasn't tired. He wasn't hesitant. He was just coming. I looked back once. Bad idea. He was closer than I thought. Maybe 15 meters. His face was blank. No expression. He was just running like it was a job. Like we were targets and he was following procedure. I faced forward again and pulled Sofia harder. She stumbled. I caught her. Kept moving. My lungs were burning. The desert air was cold and dry. Every breath hurt. My legs felt weak. I'm not a runner. I sit at a desk most days back home. I fix computers. I don't do this. But I kept going because the alternative was unthinkable. I scanned ahead for anything, any place to hide, any direction that made sense. But it was just flat darkness. No buildings, no trees, no cars, just empty land and mountains far away that we'd never reach. Then I saw the pile of debris, just a dark shape against darker ground. I didn't know what it was, but it was something. I angled toward it. Sofia followed. Her breathing was ragged. She was barely keeping up. We reached it and dropped behind it. The metal was cold against my back. I pulled Sofia down next to me. She collapsed against me. Her whole body was shaking. I put my hand over her mouth gently. She nodded. She understood. I listened. The footsteps had stopped. He wasn't running anymore, but I could hear him moving, walking, slow steps, crunching on the gravel. He was looking for us. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I was sure he could hear it. I tried to breathe quietly through my nose. Sofia was doing the same. Her eyes were wide, terrified. The footsteps circled around the pile. He was on the other side, maybe 3 meters away. Just a sheet of corrugated metal between us and him. He spoke. His voice was calm, almost conversational. He said he knew we were there. He said running was pointless. He said the desert was big and empty and we'd die out here if we tried to keep going. He said it was cold at night. He said we had no water, no shoes, no idea where we were. He was right. About all of it. He said if we came out now, he'd make it quick. He said if we made him chase us more, it would be worse. I didn't believe him. People who want to make things quick don't drive you to abandoned warehouses in the desert. They don't lock you in limos and ignore your questions. Whatever he was planning, it wasn't quick. It wasn't painless. Sofia's fingers dug into my arm. She was crying silently, tears running down her face. I wanted to tell her it was going to be okay, but I couldn't speak. I just held her. The footsteps moved again, closer to our side. I pressed myself flatter against the metal. A rock was digging into my back. I ignored it. Then I heard the other car. The truck. Louder now, closer. The headlights swept across the desert. I saw the light move over the top of the debris pile. The driver cursed. First time I'd heard real emotion in his voice. He was angry, or maybe worried. The footsteps moved away quickly, back toward the limo. I didn't move yet. I waited. I heard the limo door slam. The engine started. Gravel sprayed. The car took off fast. I counted to 10 in my head. Then I stood up slowly. I looked around the pile. The limo was gone, just taillights disappearing down the dirt road. The truck was stopped near the warehouse. A man was getting out. I called to him. My voice came out hoarse, broken. He turned and saw us. He looked confused, then concerned. That's when my legs gave out, just collapsed. I fell to my knees. Sofia dropped next to me. We just knelt there in the dirt, breathing, shaking, not able to move. The man ran over. He asked what happened. I tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come out right. I just kept saying we needed help. He pulled out his phone and called 911. While we waited for the police, I looked at Sofia's feet. They were torn up, cuts across the soles, blood mixed with dirt. She didn't seem to notice. She was just staring at nothing. I checked my own feet. My dress shoes were scuffed and damaged, but still on. My socks were soaked with sweat. I had blisters forming. My ankle hurt. I must have twisted it while running. I hadn't felt it until now. The man, Ray, gave us a blanket from his truck. We wrapped it around ourselves. We were both shivering. Not from cold, from shock. Ray asked again what happened. This time I managed to tell him. The fake driver. The limo. The warehouse. The chase. He listened and shook his head. He said this wasn't the first time something like this had happened out here. He said the desert around Las Vegas was full of bad stories. People disappeared. Bodies were found sometimes, usually by construction crews or hikers. That made it worse. Knowing we weren't the first. Knowing this driver had probably done this before. Knowing there might be others who didn't get away. The police arrived fast. 2 cars, 4 officers. They spread out with flashlights. They checked the warehouse, the shed, the area where we'd hidden. They took photos. They asked us questions, wrote everything down. One officer looked at Sofia's feet and called for an ambulance. Another officer asked me to describe the driver again. I did. Height, weight, hair color, what he was wearing. The officer radioed it in. He said they'd put out an alert. I asked if they thought they'd find him. The officer didn't answer directly. He just said they'd do their best. The ambulance came. 2 paramedics. A man and a woman. They were kind, gentle. They cleaned Sofia's feet with something that made her wince. They wrapped them carefully in white bandages. They checked her vital signs, asked if she hit her head, if she felt dizzy. She said no to everything. She just wanted to leave. They looked at me too, checked my ankle, said it was sprained but not broken, wrapped it, gave me ice, asked if I needed anything for pain. I said no. One of the paramedics asked if we wanted to go to the hospital. I looked at Sofia. She shook her head. She said she wanted to go back to the hotel. The paramedic said we should go to the hospital. Get checked properly. Make sure there was no internal damage or shock complications. Sofia said no again. Louder this time. Almost angry. The paramedic backed off. She said, okay. She said to watch for signs of shock over the next few hours. Rapid heartbeat, confusion, nausea. She said if anything felt wrong to call 911 immediately. The police drove us back to the strip. We sat in the back of the patrol car. There was a metal divider between us and the front seat. It made me feel trapped. I tried not to look at it. The officer driving asked if we needed anything. Water, food, a phone to call family. I said no. I just wanted to get to the hotel. He said we were brave. He said running was the right choice. He said a lot of people freeze in situations like that. He said we saved our own lives. I didn't feel brave. I felt lucky. Lucky that Ray showed up. Lucky the driver ran instead of fighting. Lucky we found something to hide behind. Lucky the ground didn't break Sofia's ankle or cut an artery in her foot. Lucky in 100 small ways that could have gone wrong. When we got to the hotel, everything felt surreal. The bright lights. The people laughing. The music pumping from the casino. It was like stepping into a different dimension. A place where bad things didn't happen. But we knew better now. The officers walked us through the lobby. I felt everyone staring. I didn't care. I just wanted to get to the room. In the elevator, Sofia started crying again. Harder than before. Her whole body shook. I held her up. The doors opened on our floor. I helped her down the hallway, got the keycard out, opened the door. Inside, I locked the door. I put the security chain on. I checked the windows to make sure they were locked. I looked under the bed, in the closet, in the bathroom. I knew it was irrational, but I had to check. Sofia sat on the bed and wouldn't move. I got her some water. She drank it slowly. I sat next to her, put my arm around her. She leaned into me. She said she kept seeing his face. The driver, his blank expression, the way he looked at us in the mirror. No emotion, just cold focus. I said I saw it too. I said I'd probably see it for a long time. She asked me why he picked us. What did we do? Why us? I said we didn't do anything. We were just easy targets. Tourists, foreigners, people who didn't know the city, people who trusted too easily. She said she'd never trust anyone again. I didn't argue with her. We sat there until the sun came up. Neither of us slept. We just sat in the dark, holding each other, listening to every sound in the hallway, jumping at every noise. When morning came, I realized something. We'd survived. Against odds that should have crushed us, we'd survived. We'd run through the desert in the dark. We'd hidden from a man who wanted to hurt us. We'd made it out. But survival had a cost. I could see it in Sofia's eyes. Something had changed. Something had broken that I didn't know how to fix. Las Vegas had promised us luxury, excitement, a honeymoon we'd never forget. It delivered on that last part. We'd never forget. But not for the reasons we'd hoped. We left Las Vegas the next evening. The flight back to Italy felt like it took forever. Every hour dragged. Sofia slept most of the way, or pretended to. I stayed awake. I couldn't shut my brain off. When we landed in Rome, my brother was waiting for us at the airport. He saw us coming through arrivals and his face changed. He knew something was wrong just by looking at us. He hugged Sofia first, then me. He asked what happened. I told him I'd explain later. He didn't push. He just took our bags and drove us home. The first week back, we barely left the apartment. Sofia's feet healed slowly. The cuts weren't deep, but they were everywhere. Walking hurt. She spent most of the time on the couch with her feet elevated. I took time off work. Told my boss I had a family emergency. He didn't ask questions. People called. Friends wanting to hear about the honeymoon. Sofia's mother wanting to see photos. My cousin asking if we brought back any souvenirs. We didn't answer. We let the calls go to voicemail. Finally, Sofia's best friend showed up at our door unannounced. She knew something was wrong. She pushed her way in and sat down and said she wasn't leaving until we told her what happened. So we did. We told her everything. She cried while listening. Then she got angry. She said we should sue the hotel. Sue the city. Do something. I told her we just wanted to forget it. She said we couldn't forget something like that. She was right. 2 weeks after we got back, Detective Morrison called. He said they'd identified the limo. It had been rented using a fake ID and a stolen credit card. The rental company had no useful information. The driver never returned the car. They found it abandoned, wiped clean. He said they'd checked traffic cameras and hotel security footage. They had grainy images of the man, but nothing clear enough for facial recognition. He matched a general description of someone wanted in connection with other crimes in Nevada, but they couldn't confirm it was the same person. He said the case was still open, but leads were running cold. He said if anything new came up, he'd contact us immediately. I thanked him and hung up. I told Sofia what he said. She just nodded. She'd expected it. We both had. A month passed. Then 2. Life started to move again, slowly. Sofia went back to work. I did too. We fell into routines. Wake up, have coffee, go to work, come home, make dinner, watch TV, go to bed. Normal things, safe things. But it wasn't the same. Sofia started having nightmares. She'd wake up gasping, reaching for me, saying someone was chasing her. I'd hold her and tell her it was just a dream. But I had them too. Dreams where I was running through the desert and my legs wouldn't move. Dreams where I heard footsteps behind me and couldn't turn around. Dreams where I opened the limo door and it was locked and the driver was smiling in the mirror. We didn't talk about it much during the day. We tried to act normal. But at night, in the dark, the truth came out. We were damaged. Something inside both of us had been broken, and we didn't know how to fix it. Sofia's mother suggested therapy. She found someone who specialized in trauma. Sofia went twice and then stopped. She said talking about it made it worse. She said she just wanted to forget. I understood. I felt the same way. But forgetting wasn't working. The memories were always there, just under the surface. 3 months after Las Vegas, we went to dinner with friends. A place in the city center. Nice restaurant. Good food. Everyone was laughing, telling stories, drinking wine. Sofia and I sat there quietly. At one point, someone asked about our honeymoon. The table went silent. Our friends knew something had happened, but not the details. I said it was fine, changed the subject. But the moment hung there. After dinner, walking back to the car, Sofia said she couldn't do this anymore. I asked what she meant. She said pretending. Acting like everything was okay when it wasn't. She said every time someone asked about Las Vegas, she wanted to scream. I told her we didn't have to pretend. Not with each other. She said that wasn't enough. She said she needed to feel safe again, and she didn't know how. I didn't either. 4 months later, Detective Morrison called again. He said they'd arrested someone in Arizona. A man matching the description of our driver. He'd been caught trying to abduct a woman from a parking lot in Phoenix. She'd fought back and escaped. Security cameras caught everything. He said they were checking to see if this man had been in Las Vegas during our incident. He said if we could identify him, it would help build a case. He emailed us a photo. I opened it on my laptop. Sofia stood behind me, looking over my shoulder. The man in the photo had the same build, same hair, but I couldn't be completely sure. The image was a mugshot, straight on. The driver had always been at an angle, in low light, behind a steering wheel. I stared at the photo for a long time. Sofia did too. Finally, she said she thought it was him. The eyes, the shape of his jaw. She said she'd know those eyes anywhere. I said I thought so too, but I wasn't certain. Not 100%. Morrison said that was okay. He said they'd keep investigating. He said if it was the same person, they'd charge him with multiple crimes across several states. He said it would be a long process, but justice would happen. I wanted to believe him. 6 months after Las Vegas, Sofia and I had a conversation we'd been avoiding. We were lying in bed, not sleeping, like we did most nights. She said she didn't know if she could travel anymore. Not to new places. Not to cities she didn't know. She said the idea of getting on a plane and going somewhere foreign made her feel sick. I told her I felt the same way. I said I kept thinking about how naive we'd been. How we'd just trusted that driver because he looked professional. How we'd gotten into that car without asking questions. She said we couldn't live in fear forever. But she didn't know how to stop. I didn't either. We started seeing a therapist together. Someone who specialized in couples dealing with trauma. It helped. Slowly. We learned to talk about what happened without falling apart. We learned that what we were feeling was normal. That recovery wasn't linear. That some days would be harder than others. The therapist asked what we'd lost in Las Vegas. Beyond the physical safety, beyond the trust. Sofia said she'd lost her sense of adventure. She used to love traveling, trying new things, meeting new people. Now she wanted to stay home where everything was familiar and safe. I said I'd lost the feeling that the world was generally good. I used to believe most people were decent. That bad things happened, but they were rare. Now I knew how quickly everything could go wrong. How danger could be hiding in plain sight wearing a professional uniform and a smile. The therapist said those feelings were valid. She said trauma changes how we see the world. But she also said we could work to rebuild what we'd lost. It would take time. It would take effort. But it was possible. A year after Las Vegas, Detective Morrison called one last time. He said the man they'd arrested in Arizona had been charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder across 3 states. He said evidence connected him to at least 7 other cases. He said our case was one of them. He said we'd need to testify if it went to trial. I said we would. He said we were lucky to be alive. Most of his victims hadn't gotten away. I already knew that. But hearing it from him made it real in a different way. Sofia and I talked about it that night. We decided that if testifying could help put this man away, we'd do it. Not just for us, for the others. For the people who didn't get lucky. For the people who didn't have a ray show up at the right moment. We'd survived. And surviving meant we had a responsibility to make sure this man couldn't hurt anyone else. It wouldn't fix what happened to us. It wouldn't erase the nightmares or the fear or the way we now looked at the world. But it was something. It was a way to take back a small piece of what he'd stolen from us. Las Vegas had been supposed to be the best week of our lives. It became the worst. But we were still here, still together, still fighting to get back to who we were before. That had to count for something. 2 years have passed since that night in the desert. The trial happened 8 months ago. Sofia and I flew to Nevada to testify. Walking back into that state felt like stepping into a nightmare we'd tried to forget. But we did it. We sat in that courtroom and told our story. Every detail. The limo. The smell. The locked doors. The warehouse. The chase. The fear. The man sat there at the defense table staring straight ahead. He didn't look at us. Not once. But we looked at him. We needed to see his face in that context. Not as the powerful figure from our nightmares, but as what he really was. A criminal in handcuffs. Caught. Finished. The jury convicted him on all counts. Multiple life sentences. No parole. When the judge read the verdict, Sofia grabbed my hand. We didn't celebrate. We just breathed. After the trial, we stayed 1 extra day in Nevada. Not in Las Vegas. We couldn't go back there. We stayed in a small town an hour away. We rented a car and drove out to the desert. Not to the warehouse. We didn't need to see that place again. We just drove until we found an empty stretch of road and pulled over. We stood there in the afternoon sun, looking out at the vast emptiness. The same desert that almost became our grave. Sofia said it looked different in the daylight. Less threatening. Just land. Just sand and rocks and sky. I said everything looks different in the daylight. We got back in the car and drove to the airport. We flew home. This time, when we landed in Rome, it felt different. Lighter. Like we'd finally closed a door that had been stuck open for 2 years. Life has slowly returned to something resembling normal. Sofia started traveling again. Small trips at first. Cities in Italy where we speak the language. Then France. Then Spain. Each trip got a little easier. She still gets nervous. She still checks and double-checks everything. But she's doing it. She's not letting fear win. I'm doing better too. The nightmares are less frequent. Maybe once a month now instead of every night. I don't jump at every unexpected sound. I don't check the locks 5 times before bed anymore. We talk about Las Vegas sometimes. Not often. But when we need to. We've learned that pretending it didn't happen doesn't work. It happened. It changed us. But it didn't destroy us. Last month, Sofia suggested we plan another honeymoon. A real one. Something to replace the memory of Las Vegas. Somewhere beautiful and safe. Maybe Greece. Maybe Portugal. Somewhere we can actually enjoy. I said yes. We're planning it now. Taking our time. Making sure everything is right. And this time, we'll be smarter. More careful. We won't trust so easily. We'll ask questions. We'll verify everything. Some people might say that's sad. That we've lost our innocence. That we're too paranoid now. Maybe they're right. But we're alive. And that's what matters. I think about Ray sometimes. The construction worker who saved us. I never got to thank him properly. The police gave us his contact information after everything settled, but I was too overwhelmed to reach out. By the time I tried, the number didn't work anymore. I hope he knows what he did for us. I hope he knows he's a hero. Not the movie kind, the real kind. The kind who shows up at the right moment and does the right thing without expecting anything in return. I think about the other victims too. The ones who didn't get lucky. The ones who didn't have someone show up. I think about their families. I wonder if they ever got answers. I hope our testimony helped give them some closure. It's not much, but it's something. Sofia and I are different people now than we were 2 years ago. We're more cautious, more aware. Less trusting. But we're also stronger. We survived something that could have killed us. We faced our trauma instead of running from it. We stood up in court and made sure the man who hurt us couldn't hurt anyone else. That's not nothing. Las Vegas will always be part of our story. It'll always be the place where our honeymoon turned into a nightmare. where we ran for our lives through the desert, where we learned how quickly everything can go wrong. But it's also the place where we learned what we're made of, where we discovered that when everything falls apart, we fight. We don't give up. We survive. And we do it together. If you're watching this and you're planning a trip, anywhere in the world, please be careful. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't get into cars you haven't verified. Don't trust people just because they look professional. Ask questions. Stay alert. Tell someone where you're going. We were lucky. Not everyone is. Stay safe out there.